explained to him, we are very biased. We are people. We are world changers on here.
That's right.
Not performers.
That's it.
Because we live in a world where there's two different people. There's two different classes of people. We have the world changers and we have the performers.
Yeah.
We never performed. Okay?
No.
Never, ever. You know what I'm saying? This is something that we live that.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying? This is our fight. This is our purpose. This is something that we have been doing. You know, and so I want to clap it up and introduce Mr. Tom Donohue.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, Tom.
How are you today?
We're good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have a discussion with you guys. I'm looking forward to it. So,
All right, tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing over in your ward to make your little corner of the world a better place.
yeah. So I think it's also important that you have a good sense of who I am and where I've come from, because I think that plays a big part on the different viewpoints that we each are going to have. I'm a 41-year-old that grew up in central Pennsylvania under a military family. My father put in 42 years into the U.S. Army. So, and I lived I went to a high school that probably had, I think we had, I lived probably 2 miles or so from my school, and had a class of 104, and I think we had maybe 4 or 5 in the class that were people of color. And so, I would say growing up, I was probably very sheltered.
Okay, what color are you talking about? Black folks?
Yes.
Black folks? It's okay to say black folks.
Yeah, it's okay. We had a long talk.
It's all right.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that it's frustrating for me because I have always been the type of person that wants to help, and of course there's the proper way of doing it, because any which way you turn or do, even with the most greatest intent, somebody's likely going to criticize it, and and that's hard. That's hard for criticism is hard for anyone. However, it's also important though, because that's what changes you and what makes you a stronger person and makes you look at things much differently in life as well. So
yeah.
As far as my DC, I've been in DC for almost 8 years. I live near Boone Elementary School. The families over at Boone have become close over the years. I had the privilege of documenting as a photographer and videographer, documenting the new school being built, and then of course the old school being knocked down. So I got close with the administration and the folks over at Boone, to the point of noticing that there was a stop sign that was missing. I know that some people have seen the news coverage of it, but it was a fundamental right that said, these students of ours, these families of ours, these Southeast families have the right to have their child cross the street safely and not have to worry about a car zooming down the street. It may be minute, might be the smallest thing, but for somebody, I don't have any children, but I saw it out my door, and I was worried about them. So 2 years it took me to get, but about 2 weeks before the school year started, I called NBC4 because I had gone through every avenue, DDOT, everything. It was a wake-up call to the politics of DC. But when they didn't come through with a simple stop sign that was needed, I went to NBC4, and they did a story on it. Had so much feedback that they had to do a story the next day, and within 2 days there were two temporary stop signs, and there were speed bumps installed and a crossing guard installed. Now, this was common sense. They needed to be there, and So, that's I've tried to get involved little bits of here and there. As they say, pick your battles. Make sure that that they're things that you can relate to. Um, I was honored and quite surprised when I got a phone call from some of the teachers at the school who who, to, who told me I was appointed basically to the nominating committee for the new principal over at Boone Elementary, and that the meeting was going to be that evening. And I was frankly I was really concerned about it. I didn't think that I was the right person to represent the families in Southeast of their school children. Again, I don't have any school kids, and I'm white. Yeah, I didn't think that I was the right one, and I talked. So I reached out to.
This is the thing. You're a human being. You're living in a community where you have to live. This is where you live. So anything that goes on that's not right, and we need more people like yourself that needs to step up, especially when we're talking about that particular ward that you live in.
And while you don't have any children in the school, and I can certainly understand why you feel the way that you feel, you do observe what's going on in the community.
In the community, that's
and
right.
You may be able to bring a different perspective to the table. Now, I don't know how many people are on this selection committee. I know that when I have been on selection committees, it's been like 8 to 10 folks.
Yeah, and that's there was a couple people from the school, so that's pretty much about what it was. I think that the other thing is that I provided an opportunity to have a clear voice, meaning anybody that was on the committee, most had either a child going to the school or was a faculty member, and often you can be you kind of have to watch what you say because this is the DCPS is hearing in, and for me, I didn't have any kids. I didn't have any influences from the school. There was no pressure that I could receive from DCPS, so I could literally extend a voice of concern of whatever without any fear of retaliation or any concern like that. So I knew that I had that was a unique opportunity that I had, an obligation that I had, and not knowing that I would have a large enough fear or concern to sound the alarms. I thought that the selection process that went underway, if you want to gain the insight of the community, you have to give the community the opportunity to give that insight. And what I was informed of this process was that we were to begin writing. We were basically to meet, come up with some questions that all of the candidates would receive. But here's the kicker. I said, well, who are the candidates? They informed us that we would not be told who the candidates were or have any of their resumes until 30 minutes prior to us asking the questions. Now, I have a problem with that. That is not in any way community involvement. That is being a puppet, basically fulfilling the needs of the school to be able to say, well, we had the community involved. And
so you just feel like they picked you just to fill a space? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, I think that partly. Well, first of all, I think that from hearing some of the teachers and the feedback that I received when I expressed the concern was that they genuinely knew that I cared about their students, and that that if anything was to come up, I would be able to have a voice that could literally voice whatever I wanted without any fear to a child that I may have or to a job that I may have. So I could literally be a community involved activist, advocate, and not have any fear of. I mean, what is DCPS going to do to me? I don't have a kid. I don't have a job there. So it was something where they had an advocate in the corner that could really voice their opinion. And I never thought that I would have to do that, but when I found and heard the injustice of the process, there really was no process here. There was a we just want you to be a sounding board, and because we really don't care what people say. There was no way that for me to be able to go back to the Southeast families and say, here are the candidates. Look at their resumes. Let me know if you have any concerns. Look into them yourselves. They literally gave us 30 minutes prior to us having conversations with each of the candidates to know who they were and know what their resume was. I have never been on a selection committee where you had 30 minutes to evaluate, to look into their history, to look into what they're made of. I mean, this was going to be the principal, the person that was going to lead the charge of our Southeast superstars becoming the superstars that we want them to be. And you really...
Interrupting you, who was calling that shot? Was it the mayor? Was it the county council rep? Who called that shot? Who
yes,
okayed that?
So this is apparently a process that has been underway for some time. And so it was directly from DCPS. Now, as soon as I was made aware of this, I did my due diligence, and I had contacted the city council members, the at-large folks. I contacted the chancellor, all expressing my greatest concern for the fact that this process would not give our Southeast families a true opportunity to offer input for the chancellors to hear, to decide who they were going to choose. So I even went to the point of saying, of demanding that this conference call be delayed with all the candidates, even just for it was happening on Friday, and I just said, let's give us the weekend, allow me the opportunity to dig through their resume, to look at what schools that they've been in the past, or what their past has been. Giving me 30 minutes, prior to, while trying to get ready for the actual, it's just impossible. And that the only thing I can think of is that strategic on the schools department, in order to have the least amount of information on a candidate going into the interview.
Okay, the reason why I asked that question was because I was the HR manager at a charter school 8 years ago, and I served in that capacity for about 5 years. I worked at the charter school for about 5 years, and we had a process. We would not, even though I think that the leadership there was bonkers, we did have a process. Now, and I had prepared some generic questions, but we had at least 72 hours to peruse a resume when we were going for a big position in the school. That's the reason why I asked you that question.
Yeah, and so in my expressing these concerns, they had informed me, well, this is the way that we do it. We do it across the board. The questions are all the same for each of the candidates, so that it remains a fair type of questioning. And frankly, that doesn't provide us really anything. I mean, who wouldn't want to ask specific enough questions to each candidate that specifically refers to each candidate, not general questions that we ask to each single, every single candidate. It was a very unfair process, and I told them, and I knew that the day before they had said that they would appreciate that we honor confidentiality, and I said, whoa. I said, I'm telling you right now that I will not honor confidentiality in regards to this, because giving us this 30 minutes prior to is not fair to any of us, any of the candidates, and anybody on the panel, the families. I said, so immediately that morning, as soon as I received the resumes, I made a posting, and I explained, I had a posting ready for the families, and I just put it out. I included all of the resumes. I felt that this was, this is the family's future. These are the kids' future, and so, and telling DCPS and setting the expectation that I would not be following that, which is what I did, and I just posted all of the resumes. Now, anything personal I left out, but things that the families should know, like where have they taught, or where were they last, was important. So sadly, the council, nobody really did much. Robert White, Councilman White, did respond and actually had a conversation with the chancellor that day, but my calls for a delay of the call went unanswered. So